Captain Han Ji-woo stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the stars through the viewing screen. His ship floated quietly in space, patrolling the outer edges of human territory. It was supposed to be a routine mission. Nothing exciting ever happened out here. That was about to change. The communication officer suddenly sat up straight. "Captain, we're receiving a distress signal from New Busan colony on Titan II." Ji-woo's stomach dropped. New Busan was home to 3,000 colonists, families, children, scientists, and miners who had traveled across the galaxy to build a new life. "Put it through," he ordered. The message was chaos, screaming, explosions. A woman's voice crying out, "They're firing on us! The Vrelians are bombing the colony! Please, someone help!" The signal cut off. Ji-woo gripped the armrest of his chair. "Get me a visual on Titan II, now!" The screen flickered. What he saw made his blood run cold. Vrelian warships hung in orbit above the colony. Bright flashes of light fell from their weapons toward the surface. Each flash meant death. Each flash meant homes destroyed and lives ended. "Sir, what are your orders?" his first officer asked. Ji-woo wanted to give the order to attack. Every instinct in his body screamed at him to protect those people. But he knew the rules. Earth was new to the Galactic Council. They had to follow protocols. They had to wait for permission. "Send an emergency transmission to Earth Command," he said through clenched teeth, "and get me the Council's emergency channel." Within minutes, he was connected to the Galactic Council's Emergency Response Center. An alien with purple skin and too many eyes appeared on the screen. "This is Captain Han Ji-woo of Earth's Defense Fleet. The Vrelians are attacking our colony at Titan II. We need immediate Council intervention." The alien blinked slowly. "Your complaint has been registered. A committee will review the matter." "A committee?" Ji-woo couldn't believe what he was hearing. "People are dying right now." "Captain, all disputes must go through proper channels. Any aggressive action on your part will be considered a violation of Council law." The transmission ended. Ji-woo stared at the blank screen. Below them, the bombardment continued. He received orders from Earth Command 30 minutes later. "Stand down. Do not engage. Let the Council handle it." He had never felt so helpless in his life. By the time the Vrelian ships left, New Busan was gone. 3,000 people reduced to nothing but smoke and rubble. Ambassador Choi Min-ji arrived at the Galactic Council chambers the next day. She had prepared her speech carefully. She wore her formal black suit and carried a data pad with evidence of the attack. She was ready to demand justice. The council chambers were massive. 12 different alien species sat in a circle, each on a raised platform. Humans had the smallest platform, far in the back, a reminder of their place. Minji stood in the center and began to speak. "Honored council members, I come before you seeking justice. Yesterday, the Vrelian Concordat attacked our colony without warning or provocation. 3,000 innocent civilians were killed. We demand—" "Ambassador Minji," a Vrelian representative interrupted. His voice was cold and sharp. "Your colony was expanding into disputed territory. We gave multiple warnings. Your people ignored them. What happened was a measured response to human aggression." "Measured response?" Minji's voice rose despite her training. "You murdered 3,000 people!" "Perhaps this tragedy will teach your species to respect boundaries," the Vrelian said. Several other council members nodded in agreement. Minji felt sick. She looked around the chamber. Some aliens looked uncomfortable. Most looked bored. None looked willing to help. The council voted on her request for justice. They decided to form an investigative committee. It would take 2 years to complete their review. Until then, no action would be taken. The Vrelians faced no punishment, no sanctions, not even a formal warning. As Minji left the chambers, she heard one of the council members talking to another. "Humans are so emotional. They need to learn patience. In a few hundred years, maybe they'll understand how things work." She sent her report back to Earth. The response came from Admiral Kang Hyun himself. She had met him once. He was old, with gray hair and hard eyes, a veteran of Earth's last major war. His message was short. Ambassador, return to Earth. We're done playing by their rules. The news of New Busan spread across Earth quickly. People were angry. They wanted revenge. They wanted blood. But the government remained quiet, too quiet. In the council chambers, the aliens congratulated themselves on handling the situation. The Vrelians had established dominance. The humans had been put in their place. Order was maintained. 3 days after the attack, Earth made its announcement. Ambassador Minji would be recalled. All human ships would return to the Sol system. Earth was withdrawing from active council participation until the matter was resolved. The council barely reacted. Some species actually seemed pleased. Good, one ambassador said. Let them sulk. They'll come crawling back when they realize they need us more than we need them. But Admiral Kang Hyun had different plans. He sat in his office on Earth, surrounded by his senior officers. Captain Ji Woo had been called back from his ship. Director Park Seon-woo from Intelligence was there. So was Dr. Lim Suho, the scientist who had been working on classified projects. Gentlemen, Hyun said quietly, the council thinks we're weak. They think we'll forget about New Busan. They think we need them. He looked at each person in the room. They're wrong on all counts. Director Park, begin intelligence operations. I want to know everything about Vrelian military capabilities, every ship, every base, every weakness. Already started, sir, Park replied with a thin smile. Dr. Lim, how long until the kinetic lance system is operational? 3 months, Admiral. Maybe less if we push. Push. Commander Yoon. He turned to a woman in black tactical gear. Your Shadow Corps teams will deploy within the week. Deep cover, long term. I want eyes everywhere. Understood, sir. Hyun looked at Jiwoo last. Captain, you'll be training our first strike fleet. When the time comes, we'll need our best commanders ready. Sir, the Council warned us that any retaliation would result in sanctions and expulsion, Jiwoo said carefully. Hyun's smile was cold. I'm counting on it. In space, human ships began their withdrawal. They moved slowly, deliberately, back toward Earth. The Galactic Council watched and assumed humanity had learned its lesson. They assumed wrong. In hidden facilities across the Sol system, Earth's military worked day and night. New weapons were tested, new ships were built, new tactics were developed, and in the shadows, human agents slipped into Vrelian space like ghosts. The Vrelians noticed nothing. The Council noticed nothing. They had all made the same mistake. They thought humanity was weak because humans had been peaceful. They thought Earth would accept injustice because Earth had followed the rules. They were about to learn a hard lesson. Humanity's greatest strength had never been its weapons or its technology. It was something simpler and far more dangerous. When pushed far enough, humans didn't break. They didn't surrender. They adapted. They planned. And they remembered. New Busan would be avenged. The Council would learn to respect Earth. And the Vrelians would pay for every single life they had taken. The galaxy just didn't know it yet. 6 months passed. Earth said nothing. The last human ship had returned to the Sol system. The last human diplomat had gone home. Every communication channel went silent. The Galactic Council waited for Earth to apologize and ask to come back. They waited in vain. In the council chambers, the aliens talked among themselves. The humans are being stubborn, one said. They'll realize they need our trade routes soon enough. Let them stay isolated, another replied. Perhaps isolation will teach them humility. The Vrelians were especially pleased. They had proven their dominance. The other species had seen what happened when someone challenged their authority. Everything was as it should be. But strange things were happening, things the Council didn't know about yet. Commander Yoon Dabin floated in the darkness of space. Her suit was completely black. No lights, no signals, nothing that could be detected. Around her, 19 other members of Shadow Corps did the same. They were ghosts in the void. "Team 1, move to insertion point Alpha," she whispered into her secure channel. Her team had spent 3 weeks crossing Vrelian space. They traveled in a ship that looked like space debris. They moved slowly, carefully, avoiding all sensors and patrols. Now they were finally in position. Below them was a Vrelian military station. It controlled communications for an entire sector. Dabin and her team would plant devices that would let Earth see and hear everything. The Vrelians would never know they were being watched. "Insertion in 30 seconds, her second-in-command said. They dropped silently toward the station. Their suits used advanced technology that bent light around them. To any sensor, they simply weren't there. They reached the station's hull and attached themselves with magnetic grips. "Planting surveillance package now," Dabin reported. The device was smaller than her hand. It connected directly to the station's network through microscopic wires. Once activated, it would be almost impossible to detect. The Vrelians would need to tear apart their entire station to find it. "Package active. We're getting clear data streams." "Excellent work, Team 1. Director Park Seon-woo's voice came through from Earth. "Move to your next target." Dabin smiled. They had 16 more stations to tag before their mission was complete. Across Vrelian space, similar operations were happening. Shadow Corps teams planted surveillance devices on military bases, shipyards, and communication stations. They hacked into databases and downloaded classified files. They mapped every defensive position and every patrol route. The Vrelians suspected nothing. Why would they? Earth was supposed to be weak. Earth was hiding in its home system like a frightened child. Or so they thought. On Earth, Dr. Lim Suho worked through the night. His laboratory was deep underground, hidden from any possible detection. Around him, engineers and scientists assembled the pieces of humanity's new weapon system. The kinetic lance was beautiful in its simplicity. It was just a mass driver, a device that used magnetic fields to launch projectiles. But the projectiles were special. They were made of dense metal and shaped perfectly. When accelerated to 90% of light speed, they became unstoppable. "Run the calculations again," Suho said to his assistant. The numbers appeared on the screen. At that speed, even a small projectile carried enormous energy. It would hit with the force of a nuclear weapon. And because it was just metal moving very fast, there was no radiation signature, no warning. The target would never see it coming. "Sir, at this velocity, the impact will vaporize anything within 5 kilometers. "Good. That's what we want. How many units can we deploy?" "We can have 50 kinetic lance platforms ready within 2 months. Each platform can fire 10 shots before needing to recharge." Suho nodded. 500 shots, more than enough to eliminate every major Vrelian military installation in a single coordinated strike. "Begin full production," he ordered. In Earth's shipyards, new vessels were being built. They looked nothing like the older human ships. These were sleeker, faster, and carried weapons the galaxy had never seen. Admiral Kang Hyan watched from an observation deck as workers assembled the hull of the newest carrier. "She's beautiful," Captain Jiwoo said beside him. "She's necessary," Hyun replied. "How is the training progressing?" "The first strike fleet is ready. Every captain knows their target. Every crew has practiced their approach thousands of times in simulation. When you give the word, we can launch within 6 hours." "And morale?" Jiwoo's expression darkened. "They remember New Busan, sir. Every single one of them. They want this." Hyun understood. 3,000 dead civilians, men, women, and children who had done nothing wrong except try to build a better life. The Galactic Council had done nothing. Justice had been denied. "We're not doing this for revenge," Hyan said quietly. We're doing this because the Council needs to learn that justice matters, that you can't murder innocents and face no consequences. With respect, sir, I want both justice and revenge. Hyun allowed himself a small smile. So do I, Captain. So do I. Reports started reaching the Galactic Council. Small things at first. A Vrelian scout ship disappeared near the outer territories. It was probably just a malfunction. Then another disappeared, and another. A Vrelian supply depot suffered a massive systems failure. All their computers crashed simultaneously. They lost inventory records for thousands of tons of military supplies. The Vrelians suspected sabotage, but found no evidence. Vrelian military officers reported strange signals near their bases. When they investigated, they found nothing. But the signals kept happening. It was making them nervous. Could it be the humans? One Vrelian commander asked. His superior laughed. The humans are hiding in their home system. They don't have the capability or the courage to operate in our space. These are just technical glitches. Fix them and stop bothering me. But the Vrelian High Command wasn't so sure. They began moving ships into defensive positions. They increased patrols. They sent scouts toward the Sol system to watch for human activity. The scouts never came back. Director Park Seon-woo watched the intelligence reports flow in from across Vrelian space. His teams had done excellent work. He now knew more about Vrelian military capabilities than most Vrelian commanders did. He knew which bases were well defended and which were vulnerable. He knew their communication protocols. He knew their response times. He knew everything. Director, we've successfully planted surveillance devices on 93% of high-value targets, his assistant reported. The remaining 7%? Too heavily guarded. We'd risk detection. Acceptable. Pull our teams back. It's almost time. The teams began their careful withdrawal. They moved just as slowly and quietly as when they had entered Vrelian space. Within 3 weeks, every Shadow Corps operative was safely back in human territory. The Vrelian High Command finally admitted they had a problem. Something was happening. They couldn't prove it was Earth, but the timing was suspicious. Earth goes silent, and suddenly strange things start happening in Vrelian space. They decided to force the issue. If Earth was planning something, better to crush them now while they still could. The Vrelians began massing their fleet. Hundreds of warships gathered at the edge of the Sol system. The Galactic Council approved the mobilization. The humans need to be reminded of their place, the Council leaders agreed. If they're planning rebellion, it must be stopped. The Vrelian Grand Admiral sent a message to Earth. It was broadcast across all channels, meant for the entire galaxy to hear. Humans of Earth, your silence is unacceptable. Your withdrawal from Council space is seen as preparation for illegal military action. You have 72 hours to surrender unconditionally. Open your system to Council inspection. Submit to Vrelian authority. If you refuse, we will enter your system and force compliance. This is your only warning. On Earth, the government finally responded. Admiral Hyun himself appeared on the transmission. He looked calm, almost relaxed. We have received your message, he said simply. We accept your terms. We'll see you soon. The transmission ended. The Vrelian commanders looked at each other in confusion. That was too easy. They had expected defiance. They had expected desperate threats. Instead, the humans had just agreed to surrender. It's a trick, one officer said. Of course it's a trick, the Grand Admiral replied. But what can they do? We have 300 ships. They have perhaps 50 outdated vessels. Even if they fight, we'll crush them within days. The Vrelian fleet began moving toward Earth. They moved slowly, confidently. They would arrive in 48 hours. They expected to find a frightened planet ready to beg for mercy. What they found instead would change the galaxy forever. On Earth, final preparations were being made. The kinetic lance platforms were in position. The first strike fleet was ready. Shadow Corps had provided perfect intelligence. Every target was identified. Every attack was planned down to the second. Admiral Hyon stood in command center, surrounded by dozens of screens showing military readiness across the entire system. Director Park was there, Dr. Lim, Captain Jiwoo, Commander Yoon, all the key players in what was about to happen. "Status?" Hyon asked. "All systems ready, sir," Park reported. "Intelligence confirms Vrelian fleet will reach weapons range in 47 hours. Lance platforms? Charged and locked on targets. We can fire at any time. Strike fleet? Ready to deploy on your order," Jiwoo said. Hyon looked at each of them. "The galaxy thinks we're weak. They think we'll surrender. They're about to learn otherwise. We're not doing this because we want war. We're doing this because someone has to show the Council that actions have consequences, that you can't murder innocents and face no punishment." He pressed a button on his console. "All forces, this is Admiral Hyon. Operation Reckoning is now active. Show them what happens when you underestimate humanity." Across the Sol system and deep in Vrelian space, human forces began to move. The silence was over. The Vrelian Grand Admiral sat in his command chair, confident and relaxed. His fleet of 300 warships approached the Sol system in perfect formation. Behind him, his officers monitored their screens. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. "Sir, we'll be in weapons range of Earth's outer defenses in 30 minutes, his tactical officer reported. "Excellent. Prepare a message demanding their immediate surrender." "Sir," another officer suddenly shouted, "we're detecting massive energy signatures throughout Vrelian space." The Grand Admiral frowned. "What? That's impossible. Show me." The main screen changed. Red alerts appeared across a map of Vrelian territory. 23 different systems were showing critical warnings. Military bases, shipyards, defense platforms. All of them were under attack. "This must be a sensor error," the Grand Admiral said. But his voice carried uncertainty now. Who could possibly attack so many targets simultaneously? His question was answered 1 second later. The first kinetic lance projectile struck the orbital shipyard at Vrel Prime. It had been launched hours ago from a hidden platform. The projectile had crossed space at 90% of light speed. The Vrelians never saw it coming, never had a chance to defend. The impact released energy equivalent to 50 nuclear weapons. The shipyard simply ceased to exist. It didn't explode or burn. It vaporized. One moment it was there, the next it was nothing but expanding gas and debris. "Dear gods," someone whispered on the Vrelian command ship, but the attacks had only just begun. Every 3 seconds, another lance projectile struck another target. Military command centers, fleet staging areas, defensive weapons platforms. Each strike was precise. Each strike was devastating, and each strike avoided civilian populations. Across Vrelian space, their military infrastructure was being systematically destroyed. Bases that had stood for centuries disappeared in flashes of light. Ships that were being built in orbital yards were reduced to atoms. Defensive satellites were wiped from existence. The Vrelians tried to respond. They tried to raise shields. They tried to evacuate. They tried to defend. But the projectiles were too fast. By the time sensors detected them, they had already hit. There was no defense, no escape. "Get me a count!" the Grand Admiral shouted. "How many installations have we lost?" "Sir, I'm reading 73 major military sites destroyed, and more are being hit every few seconds. We've lost all orbital defense platforms in our home system. The 4th Fleet staging area is gone. The communications hub at Sector 7 just went offline." The Grand Admiral felt his blood run cold. In less than 10 minutes, Earth had crippled Vrelian military power across 24 systems. Decades of military buildup were being erased, and he had no idea how to stop it. "Where are these attacks coming from?" "We don't know, sir. The projectiles are too fast to track backwards. They could be launched from anywhere." Then things got worse. Captain Song Hana led her squadron of stealth fighters into Vrelian space. Her ship was invisible to every sensor the Vrelians had. It used technology Earth had been developing in secret for years. Technology the Council didn't know existed. All wings, this is Hana. Target the communication satellites. Execute. Her squadron split up, each fighter moving to a different target. They flew through Vrelian space like ghosts. When they reached their targets, they fired. Small missiles, barely larger than a person's arm, struck each satellite perfectly. The explosions were tiny, but the effect was enormous. Within minutes, the Vrelian military lost all communication between their systems. Commanders couldn't talk to their ships. Ships couldn't talk to each other. The entire Vrelian fleet was suddenly blind and deaf. Satellites eliminated, Hana reported calmly, moving to secondary targets. On the Vrelian command ship, panic was setting in. They had lost contact with every military installation. Their fleet was scattered across Vrelian space with no way to coordinate, and the attacks just kept coming. "Sir, we need to retreat," an officer shouted. "We need to regroup and defend our home systems." "We can't," the Grand Admiral snapped. "We've lost communications. I can't even send the order to retreat." That's when Vice Admiral Bae Junho arrived. His first strike fleet emerged from quantum slip space directly inside Vrelian defensive perimeters. One moment, the space was empty. The next, 50 Earth warships appeared. The Vrelian defenders tried to respond, but their command networks were down. Their communications satellites were destroyed. Half their defensive platforms had been eliminated by kinetic lance strikes. They were scattered and confused. Earth's ships were neither. They moved with perfect coordination. Their weapons were more advanced than anything the Vrelians had seen. Their shields were stronger. Their targeting was more accurate. The first engagement lasted exactly 8 minutes. When it was over, every Vrelian military ship in the sector was either destroyed or disabled. Earth hadn't lost a single vessel. "All ships, proceed to next target," Junho ordered calmly. "Maintain formation. Remember, we target military installations only, no civilian casualties." His fleet moved on. They hit target after target with overwhelming force. Vrelian commanders who tried to fight were outmatched. Those who tried to retreat found their escape routes blocked. Within hours, Vrelian military presence in 3 entire sectors had been eliminated. Deep inside Vrelian territory, Commander Yoon Dabin activated her final surprise. The Shadow Corps teams had planted more than just surveillance devices during their months of infiltration. They had planted viruses, backdoors, hidden programs in every major Vrelian military computer system. "Director Park, this is Commander Yoon. Activating sabotage protocols now." "Confirmed. Execute." Dabin pressed a button on her wrist computer. Across Vrelian space, military installations suddenly went dark. Power grids failed. Weapon systems refused to activate. Ship engines shut down unexpectedly. Even their flagship vessels found their computers rebooting at critical moments. The Vrelians had been infiltrated so thoroughly that Earth could shut down their military with the press of a button. Every system had been compromised. Every network had been penetrated. The Shadow Corps had done their job perfectly. A Vrelian battlecruiser tried to engage one of Junho's ships. The cruiser's weapons charged, ready to fire. Then every system on the ship shut down. The lights went out. The engines stopped. The weapons went offline. The cruiser floated helplessly in space while Earth's ships moved past it. "What's happening?" the Vrelian captain screamed at his crew. "Get the systems back online." "We're trying, sir. It's like someone else is controlling our ship. Everything we try to activate immediately shuts back down." The captain realized the horrible truth. Earth hadn't just been preparing weapons. They had been preparing for total warfare. Every aspect of Vrelian military power had been compromised, countered, or destroyed. On the Vrelian homeworld, Grand General Nam Yuri's ground forces landed unopposed. Massive transport ships descended through the atmosphere. The planetary defenses tried to fire. Every weapon system failed. The viruses had infected everything. "Sir, the capital city is directly ahead," her second-in-command reported. "No resistance detected." "Maintain formation," Yuri ordered. "Remember your rules of engagement. Minimal force, no civilian casualties. We're here for their government, not their people." Her forces moved through the capital city. Vrelian civilians watched in shock and fear, but the human soldiers didn't harm them, didn't threaten them, just moved efficiently toward the government buildings. The Vrelian government tried to escape. They ran to their secure bunker deep underground. But when they reached it, human soldiers were already waiting. Commander Yoon's teams had been there for days, making sure no one could run. "By the authority of Earth's United Defense Force, you are under arrest for war crimes," Yuri announced. "The murder of 3,000 civilians at New Busan Colony. You will face trial." The Vrelian leaders were too shocked to even respond. They were arrested without a fight. Within 2 hours, the human flag flew over the Vrelian Capitol building. Back in space, the Grand Admiral finally managed to get a damage report. What he read made him want to weep. Vrelian military strength had been reduced by 84% in less than 18 hours. Every major shipyard was destroyed. Every command center was offline. Most of their fleet was either destroyed, disabled, or scattered and unable to communicate. Their homeworld was occupied. Their government was captured. Earth had won, completely, overwhelmingly, so thoroughly that continued resistance was pointless. "Sir, we're receiving a message from Earth," his communications officer said quietly. "Put it through." Admiral Kang Hyan appeared on the screen. He looked calm, professional, like he had just completed a routine exercise instead of dismantling an entire military force. "Grand Admiral, this is Admiral Hyan of Earth's Defense Force. Your military has been neutralized. Your government is in custody. Your homeworld is under occupation. I'm offering all remaining Vrelian forces the opportunity to surrender. If you agree, your ships and personnel will not be harmed. You have my word." The Grand Admiral looked around his bridge. His officers stared back at him. Some looked angry. Most just looked defeated. What choice did they have? "We surrender," he said quietly. "A wise decision," Hyan replied. "Transmit your fleet positions. My ships will guide you to designated surrender zones. Thank you for choosing peace." The transmission ended. Across Vrelian space, the word spread. The war was over. Earth had won in less than a day. The species that the Council had called weak, the species that was supposed to be hiding in fear, had just destroyed the military might of one of the galaxy's oldest and most powerful civilizations. And they had done it so efficiently, so completely, that the Vrelians never had a chance to fight back. In the Galactic Council chambers, alarms were ringing. Reports were flooding in. The Council members sat in stunned silence as they learned what had happened. Some were terrified. Some were angry. All of them were shocked. "This is impossible," one council member whispered. "Humans aren't capable of this." "Apparently," another replied slowly. "We were wrong about what humans are capable of." The galaxy was about to learn a hard lesson. Never assume someone is weak just because they chose to be peaceful. Never assume someone won't fight just because they followed your rules. And never ever underestimate someone who has been quiet for too long. Earth had been patient. Earth had been peaceful. Earth had followed the Council's rules and respected their authority, until the moment those rules failed to deliver justice. Then Earth had shown exactly what humans could do when pushed too far. The Vrelian Concordat had learned this lesson. Soon the entire Galactic Council would learn it too. The Galactic Council convened in emergency session. For the first time in 300 years, every council member was present. They gathered not because they wanted to, but because they had to. The galaxy had changed overnight, and none of them knew what to do about it. The chamber was filled with nervous energy. Aliens who normally sat with confidence now shifted uncomfortably. Species that had been allies for centuries eyed each other with suspicion. If Earth could dismantle the Vrelians so completely, what could they do to others? "We must address the human situation immediately," the council speaker announced. His name was unpronounceable to human tongues. He was a tall, thin creature with skin like metal. "Earth has committed an act of war against a council member. They have violated every agreement and protocol. We must respond." "Respond how?" someone asked. "Did you see what they did to the Vrelians? Their entire military structure was destroyed in hours." "We are the Galactic Council," the speaker insisted. "We have maintained order for thousands of years. We cannot let one aggressive species destroy everything we've built." "Perhaps we should hear what the humans have to say," another council member suggested carefully. "They did send a request for this session. They want to address us." "They want to address us?" The speaker's voice dripped with sarcasm. "How generous of them, after they've occupied a council homeworld and arrested a sitting government. Fine. Let's hear what excuse they've prepared." The chamber doors opened, but it wasn't Ambassador Choi Minji who entered. The woman who walked in was younger, taller, and carried herself with absolute confidence. She wore a simple black suit, but everyone in the room could feel the power she represented. "I am Ambassador Lee Ji-won," she announced clearly. "I speak for Earth." She walked to the center of the chamber. Unlike Minji before her, she didn't look nervous or hopeful. She looked like someone who held all the cards and knew it. 6 months ago, Ambassador Choi Minji stood in this chamber and asked for justice. 3,000 of our people had been murdered. We showed you evidence that the Vrelian attack was unprovoked. We asked you, the Great Galactic Council, to help us. Ji-won paused and looked around the room. "You did nothing. You formed a committee. You told us to wait. You told us to be patient. You told us this was how things worked in civilized space." She activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air above her. Documents, communications, video recordings. "We followed your advice. We waited. And while we waited, we investigated. What we found was interesting." The first document appeared. It was a Vrelian military communication from 3 months before the attack on New Busan. "This is a message from the Vrelian High Command to their fleet commanders. It discusses plans to eliminate human expansion in the outer territories. It specifically mentions New Busan as a target. The date is 3 months before the attack. This wasn't a response to human aggression. It was premeditated murder." Several council members shifted uncomfortably. The speaker's expression didn't change. "This document was submitted to the council as evidence," Ji-won continued. "You had it. You saw it. You ignored it." More documents appeared. Communications between Vrelian officials and other council members. Trade agreements contingent on the council looking the other way. Promises of economic benefits in exchange for political support. The Vrelians weren't just planning to attack us. They were planning to do it with council blessing. And several of you, she pointed at specific council members, were complicit. "This is outrageous," one of the accused aliens shouted. "These documents could be fabricated." "They're not," Ji-won said calmly. "We recovered them from Vrelian government servers during our occupation. They've been verified by independent experts. They're real. And they prove that the Galactic Council knew New Busan would be attacked and did nothing to stop it." The chamber erupted in shouting. Some council members denied the allegations. Others demanded to see more proof. A few sat in guilty silence. The speaker tried to restore order. "Even if this is true, it doesn't justify Earth's military action. You have violated—" "Violated what?" Ji-won interrupted. Her voice cut through the noise like a blade. "We violated council protocols. We violated agreements. You mean the same agreements you violated when you let 3,000 innocent people die? The same protocols you ignored when it was convenient for you? She walked closer to the council platforms, looking each member in the eye. Let me be very clear about something. Earth didn't withdraw from council space because we were afraid. We withdrew because we realized the truth. This council doesn't maintain peace. It maintains power. Your laws aren't about justice. They're about control. And when we asked for help, you showed us exactly what we were worth to you. Nothing. Captain Ko Min-seok stood on the bridge of his ship watching the screens. His enforcement fleet patrolled Vrelian space, maintaining order. Some Vrelian military units had tried to resist after the initial surrender. They learned quickly that it was pointless. Sir, we're detecting 3 Vrelian destroyers attempting to regroup in Sector 9, his tactical officer reported. Disable them, Min-seok ordered. Minimum force. Target their engines only. Aye, sir. His ship's weapons fired. Precise beams of energy struck the Vrelian vessels. Their engines exploded, but their hulls remained intact. The crews survived. Within minutes, rescue ships were already on their way. This was Earth's approach to occupation, firm but fair, overwhelming force when necessary, but always measured, always controlled. The Vrelian people were learning that Earth's anger was directed at their government and military, not at civilians. In the capital city, General Yuri walked through the streets. Vrelian citizens watched her with fear, but also with curiosity. Human soldiers stood guard at key locations, but they weren't aggressive. They helped direct traffic. They assisted medical services. They even helped repair damage from the brief fighting. General, the supply convoy has arrived, her aide reported. Food, medicine, and construction materials as ordered. Good. Start distribution. Priority to families with children, then elderly, then everyone else. Ma'am, with respect, these are the people whose government attacked us. Why are we helping them? Yuri looked at the Vrelian families hurrying past. Parents holding their children's hands, old people moving slowly down the street, normal people trying to live their lives. Because they didn't attack us, she said quietly. Their government did. Their military did. These people are just trying to survive. We're not here to punish them. We're here to show them what real justice looks like. Back in the council chambers, Ambassador Ji-won continued her presentation. She showed evidence of other crimes the council had covered up. Attacks on developing species, trade violations, political manipulation. For decades, the elder species had maintained their power by bending or breaking their own rules, and the council had let them do it. Earth isn't asking for permission anymore, Ji-won announced. We're done playing by rules that only apply to some species. The Vrelian government will stand trial for war crimes. Any evidence of council complicity will also be investigated, and if you try to interfere, you'll face the same response the Vrelians did. You're threatening the entire council? The speaker demanded. I'm promising the entire council. We're not afraid of you. We're not impressed by your age or your traditions. We respect strength and we respect justice. You've shown us you have one but not the other. Counselor An Jisoo stepped forward. He was Earth's new military attaché, a former general who understood power politics better than most diplomats. The Galactic Council will be reformed, he stated flatly. Rules will apply equally to all species, regardless of age or influence. War crimes will be prosecuted regardless of who commits them. Disputes will be resolved through fair arbitration, not political favors. If this council agrees to reform, Earth will work with you. If you refuse, he let the sentence hang in the air. If we refuse, the speaker asked, then Earth will form its own alliance. We've already been contacted by 5 species who are tired of being treated as lesser members. They're ready to leave your council and join ours. How many more will follow when they see they have a choice? The chamber went silent. The threat was clear. The Galactic Council could reform and stay relevant, or it could maintain its old ways and become obsolete. Earth was giving them a choice, but only one choice. "This is blackmail," someone muttered. "No," Ji-won replied. "Blackmail would be if we had no legitimate grievance. This is justice. You failed to provide it through your system, so we're changing your system. You can cooperate or you can be left behind. Your choice." Over the next hours, Earth presented what they called the Terra Accords, clear rules of engagement, mandatory arbitration for disputes, equal representation regardless of species age, and most controversial, collective defense obligations. If any member species was attacked, all members would respond. "These terms are too extreme," a council member protested. "You're asking us to risk our fleets defending species we barely know." "That's what an alliance means," An replied. "Real alliance, not the fake one you've been pretending to have. You either defend each other or you're not really allies. You're just groups that happen to coexist." Some council members walked out. 3 species formally withdrew from the council within days. They couldn't accept being equal to younger species. They couldn't imagine fighting to defend someone weaker than themselves. But 5 other species, ones that had been suppressed for generations, approached Earth privately. They wanted to join the new alliance Earth was proposing. They wanted protection from the elder species who had dominated them for so long. "The Galactic Council is breaking apart," the speaker said bitterly. "Congratulations, Ambassador Ji-won. You're destroying thousands of years of unity." "No," Ji-won corrected him. "You destroyed it when you let injustice become policy. When you allowed the strong to prey on the weak. When you turned a blind eye to murder because it was politically convenient. We're not destroying the Council. We're showing the galaxy what it really was. A comfortable lie that only worked for those in power." She gathered her documents and prepared to leave. "Earth will give you 1 month to decide. Reform the Council under the Terra Accords or watch it become irrelevant. The choice is yours, but the time for pretending everything is fine is over. The galaxy is changing. You can change with it, or you can be left behind." As she walked out of the chamber, half the council members followed her. They wanted to talk. They wanted to negotiate. They wanted to be part of whatever Earth was building because they could see the old order was dying. The speaker sat alone in his chair, watching the chamber empty. He had maintained council power for 50 years. He had believed in the system. He had thought their way was the only way. He was beginning to realize he might have been wrong. 6 months had passed since Earth's retaliation. The galaxy looked very different now. The old Galactic Council still existed, but barely. 3 of the founding species had withdrawn completely, refusing to accept the changes Earth demanded. They retreated to their own territories, bitter and resentful. But 8 species had joined Earth's new alliance. They called it the Accord of Free Worlds. Some were species the old council had suppressed. Others were newer members who saw opportunity in Earth's vision. Together, they represented a new power in the galaxy. Admiral Kang Hyen, now promoted to Marshal of Combined Forces, stood in the command center on Earth. Before him were representatives from all 8 allied species. Some looked nervous, some looked excited. All of them looked to Earth for leadership. "The reconstruction of Vrelian space is proceeding on schedule," Hyun reported. "Civilian infrastructure is being rebuilt. Food and medical supplies are flowing freely. Crime is down 40% since we established order." "What about the Vrelian people?" one alien representative asked. "Are they accepting the occupation?" "Better than expected. They're seeing that we're not here to punish them. We're here to help them build a better society, one without the corruption their government had." It was true. In the Vrelian cities, human soldiers worked alongside Vrelian civilians to repair damaged buildings. Human engineers helped restore power grids and water systems. Human doctors treated anyone who needed help, regardless of their species. General Yuri had made it her personal mission to show the Vrelian people that Earth's war was never against them. She held regular meetings with Vrelian community leaders. She listened to their concerns. She helped solve their problems. "The children are the most interesting," Yuri told her staff during one briefing. "They're not afraid of us anymore. Yesterday, I saw a group of Vrelian kids playing with human soldiers. They were teaching each other games." That was the future Hyan wanted to build. Not domination through fear, but partnership through respect. It was harder than simple conquest. It took more time and effort, but it was the only way to create lasting peace. The Vrelian war crimes trials had begun. They were held publicly, broadcast across the galaxy. Everyone could watch as evidence was presented. Former Vrelian officials testified. Military commanders explained their orders. The truth about New Busan and dozens of other attacks came out. But the trials were fair. The accused had lawyers. They could present evidence. They could testify on their own behalf. This wasn't revenge disguised as justice. It was actual justice, slow and careful and thorough. Some Vrelian officials were found guilty. They received appropriate sentences. Others were found innocent and released. The galaxy watched in fascination. This wasn't how elder species usually handled their enemies. Usually there was just punishment and humiliation. Earth was doing something different. In the reformed Galactic Council chambers, Ambassador Li Jiwan sat at Earth's platform, but it wasn't in the back anymore. Under the Terra Accords, all species had equal representation. Every platform was the same size, arranged in a circle with no one higher than anyone else. Ambassador Choi Minji watched from the audience. She had chosen not to return as Earth's primary representative. Jiwon was better suited for the hard work ahead, but Minji wanted to see what her successor would accomplish. "We're here to vote on the Collective Defense Clause," the new council speaker announced. This speaker was from a younger species, elected by all members rather than appointed by the elders. Everything was different now. "The proposal is simple," Jiwon explained. "An attack on one member is an attack on all members. We defend each other. No exceptions, no political games, no committees that take years to decide. If you're attacked, we come." Immediately. Some of the older council members looked uncomfortable. This was a huge commitment. It meant they might have to fight for species they barely knew. It meant risking their own people for someone else's safety. "This is too radical," one representative argued. "We need flexibility. We need to assess each situation individually." "That's what you had before," An Jisoo replied. "And it let New Busan burn while you formed committees. No more. Either we defend each other or this alliance means nothing." The vote was close, but it passed. The Collective Defense Clause became law. For the first time in galactic history, species of different ages and power levels truly committed to protecting each other. Not everyone was happy about the changes. The three species who had left the council formed their own group. They called themselves the Sovereignty Union. They rejected Earth's reforms. They wanted to return to the old ways where age and power determined status. "They'll cause trouble eventually," Director Park Seon-woo warned during a meeting with Hyan. "They're bitter, they're angry, and they're planning something." "Let them plan," Hyan replied calmly. "If they attack, they'll learn the same lesson the Vrelians did. We don't want war, but we're ready for it." But the Sovereignty Union was smart enough not to attack directly. Instead, they tried economic warfare. They restricted trade with Accord members. They pressured neutral species to choose sides. They spread propaganda about how Earth was destroying galactic traditions. Some species listened, but most didn't, because they could see the results of Earth's approach. Accord members were prospering. Disputes were being resolved fairly. Weaker species were being protected rather than exploited. The new system worked better than the old one. Captain Ko Min-seok led the first joint patrol of Accord forces. His fleet included ships from Earth, 2 former Council species, and 3 newer members. They moved together, practiced coordinated tactics, and learned to work as one unit. "This is strange," his second-in-command commented. "6 months ago, some of these species were strangers. Now we're trusting them to watch our backs." "That's what alliances are supposed to be," Minsok replied. "Not political convenience. Real trust." They encountered a situation that tested their resolve. A cargo ship was under attack by pirates. The ship belonged to a species that wasn't part of the Accord. It wasn't part of any alliance. Under the old rules, the patrol could have ignored it. "All ships, prepare to engage," Minsok ordered. "We're helping them." "Sir, they're not Accord members," someone pointed out. "They're people in danger, that's enough. Engage the pirates." The patrol destroyed the pirate ships and rescued the cargo vessel. The captain of that ship, a species Earth had never even met before, couldn't believe what had happened. "Why did you help us?" he asked. "You gained nothing from this." "We gained the knowledge that we did the right thing," Minsok replied. "That's enough." That story spread across the galaxy. Other species started to see the Accord differently, not as a power-hungry alliance trying to replace the old council, but as something genuinely new. An alliance based on actual principles instead of just shared interests. Dr. Lim Suho continued his work, but now he was sharing Earth's technology with Accord members. Not weapons, not military systems, but medical technology, agricultural improvements, better communication systems, things that helped everyone. "We spent so long hiding our capabilities," he told his team. "Always afraid others would see us as a threat. But now we can share, we can help. That's better than hiding." The technology transfers transformed some of the weaker Accord members. Their quality of life improved. Their economies grew. They became stronger, which made the entire alliance stronger. In the Vrelian capital, something remarkable happened. The Vrelian Council, elected by the people rather than appointed by military leaders, voted to request membership in the Accord of Free Worlds. The same people Earth had defeated now wanted to join Earth's alliance. "We made mistakes," the Vrelian Council leader said during the application hearing. "Our government was corrupt. Our military was aggressive. We hurt people, including your people at New Busan. We can't change the past. But we want to build a better future. With your help." The vote to accept Vrelian membership was contentious. Many Accord members remembered what the Vrelians had done. Many wanted them to suffer longer. But Ambassador Ji-won stood and spoke. "We started this because we wanted justice, not revenge. We wanted a system where everyone was held to the same standards. If we accept some species but reject others based on past actions, we become what we fought against. The Vrelians have met every requirement. They've held fair elections. They've prosecuted their war criminals. They've made reparations to New Busan survivors. If we reject them now, we're just being cruel." The vote passed. The Vrelian Concordat became the 9th member of the Accord of Free Worlds. The species Earth had defeated months ago became their allies. Ambassador Choi Minji returned to the council chambers for one last visit. She walked the halls where she had been humiliated. She stood in the center where she had begged for justice and been denied. Everything looked the same, but everything was different. "Ambassador Choi," a voice called. It was the old council speaker, the one who had dismissed her pleas. He looked older now, tired. "I wanted to apologize," he said quietly. "I was wrong. About Earth. About justice. About everything. I thought maintaining order was more important than doing what was right. I see now that order without justice is worthless." Minji studied him for a long moment. "Thank you for saying that. But you shouldn't apologize to me. You should apologize to the families of New Busan. They're the ones who suffered while you maintained your precious order." He nodded sadly and walked away. Commodore Han Ji-woo, The man who had watched helplessly as New Busan burned now commanded combined Accord forces. He led fleets that included humans, Vrelians, and half a dozen other species. He trained them, he trusted them, and slowly they became a real military force. "Sir, do you ever think about that day?" one of his officers asked. "The day New Busan was attacked. Do you still see it?" "Every single day," Jiwoo replied honestly. "I see those flames. I hear those screams, and I remember feeling helpless. That's why we did all this, so no one would ever feel that helpless again." The Accord of Free Worlds continued to grow. More species joined. Even some neutral species began leaning toward membership. The old council still existed, but it was becoming less relevant each month. The future belonged to the new alliance, the one built on actual principles instead of tradition and power. Marshal Hyan retired exactly 1 year after New Busan. He had accomplished what he set out to do. The Varelians had faced justice. The council had been reformed. A new order had been established. It was time for younger leaders to take over. On his last day, he visited the New Busan Memorial on Earth. 3,000 names carved in black stone. Every person who had died. Every life that had been lost. He stood there for a long time reading the names. "Did we do right by you?" he asked the stone. "Did we make your deaths mean something?" The stone gave no answer, but Hyan thought he knew. They had changed the galaxy. They had built something better. They had proven that justice mattered, even when it was hard, even when it meant standing against the entire galaxy. Earth's ruthless retaliation had left the Galactic Council speechless, but what came after was even more powerful. Earth had shown the galaxy that strength without principle was empty. That real power came from standing for something, not just against something. The old council had maintained order through fear and tradition. The Accord maintained peace through justice and partnership. One lasted because no one dared challenge it. The other would last because people chose to be part of it. In the end, that made all the difference. Earth hadn't conquered the galaxy. Earth had shown the galaxy a better way. And slowly, painfully, wonderfully, the galaxy was learning. The stars still shone above them, the same stars that had watched New Busan burn, but the galaxy beneath those stars was different now. Better, more just, more equal. It hadn't been easy. It hadn't been clean. But it had been worth it. Earth's children could grow up knowing that when their world faced injustice, their leaders hadn't accepted it. They hadn't backed down. They had fought, and they had won, and they had built something better from the ashes. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy. Not weapons or technology or military might, but the simple, powerful idea that everyone deserved justice. Everyone deserved to be treated fairly. Everyone mattered, regardless of their power or their age or their history. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly as it should be.